Lexi J. Who's Lexi J? Is she a TikToker? You should know this.
I have no idea.
You're the TikTok expert.
Lexi J.
Oh, let's see what this
is iconic, but I want to introduce you to the real legend of the family, Elena. She lived with my family for about 30 years, and about 6 months ago, she decided it was time for her to move back to the Philippines. She got me ready for my first day of preschool, moved me into my college dorm and everything in between, so taking her back to the Philippines was something I could not have wanted to do more.
You're going to the Philippines?
Yes, I'm going to the Philippines. I have to take her home. It had been over 30 years since Nanny had last been to the Philippines. She sacrificed raising her son and daughter to get a job in America and send every dollar she could back home to her family. She is the hardest worker, and it's not an exaggeration to say that she's been through hell, yet somehow she's the smiliest, happiest person I have ever met. Before I knew it, it was time to head to LAX, and when I tell you I have...
Why did she post this? Like, this is like... Bro, you can't be posting stuff like this online. Like, what the
This is insane.
Yeah, because, like, of course, everyone is going to look at this and go, like, oh, my God, you had, like, a live-in servant. You know what I mean?
I released her back to her home country.
This is literally, like, this is, like... Oh, Jesus Christ. Like, if you ask the nanny herself, right? Like, I'm sure she has a perspective that is not as like aggressive as everyone else that's like talking about it. But even then, you know what I mean? You're describing like third world exploitation that we have normalized because, you know, it's the Philippines.
Have never experienced a heartbreak like this before. God, I love this woman so much. The princess, as I like to call her, was of course chauffeured all around LAX. She made so many friends, we got a ton of snacks, and we were ready for the longest flight ever. We had a tearful goodbye to America. She thanked it for everything it had brought to her. I cursed it for not letting her stay forever. We held hands the majority of the flight, and before I knew it...
Oh, she has to go home.
Wait.
Oh my God. Wait, she's being deported? What the... Yo. This story is insane. The part, what? That makes it so much worse. Bro, why didn't you here's how you could have made this story maybe a little bit more manageable. Even then, people will get mad at you, okay? Work with immigration lawyers to ensure that she gets documentation, the proper documentation, and bring her family here. What are you doing? You didn't... This is just oh yeah, my family used and abused our servant for 30 years and then didn't even sponsor her. And then I just basically shipped us back to the Philippines. Yeah, you already know this, but in the Philippines, they do this a lot, but it's usually nursing and not being a maid. Maids are super normal in the Philippines, but they aren't like this. Really poor countries like the Philippines are hyper reliant on... They're hyper reliant basically on this kind of thing where they work in either the cruise sector in horrible work conditions for the record, or they work in nursing homes and things of that nature. Yeah. They're in the healthcare adult healthcare industry for the most part. It just sucks, and it's just one incredible way that America can keep importing cheap.
Yeah, I mean it's a huge
cheap labor.
Especially, I always see it with Filipino grandparents. It's always about oh, they came here so they could make money to move back to the Philippines. It's always just this you can't make it happen there, and so you're shipped over here, and hopefully before you die,
you
make enough to go back.
Yeah. She said that the lawyer advised her not to go back home and her children couldn't visit her, the nanny. Yeah, it's that's odd.
We were in the Philippines. All sorts of things were going through my head at this point. Will Nanny's family take good care of her? Will they resent me? How will she fit in? Will she be homesick for America?
Will they resent me? It's hey, this is your mom who was my mom because my mom was not available. Also, what is this? What is the feedback here? What this is a thing that I will never understand, okay? This is a thing that they do on TikTok, which is I guess funny for me to say because I do react to a lot of videos and everybody always says oh, sometimes I'll take a piss in the middle of that react. So there's that brief moment of my chair being there. But I don't understand when you're not transforming anything. You're just looking angrily during the entire TikTok. It doesn't really doesn't really bring anything new to the table. You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand why they do that. Literally what you do, Lamau. Yeah, famously, I don't react at all, 13-month subscriber, which is precisely the reason why every fucking react I have is like 8 hours long when the original content was like 30 seconds, okay?
Will they resent me? How will she fit in? Will she be homesick for America? I was so anxious, I cannot even tell you.
This is insane. I cannot believe we're
Stay
watching.
tuned for part 2, my time.
Now, if that wasn't bad enough, before she deleted the video, somebody had commented this and said, why did she never get to visit her home during the 30 years? That's crazy. Lexi replied back and said her immigration lawyers advised her not to and advised her kids not to visit. It was her decision to stay here as long as she did. That's wild.
Seems like she only has 119,000 followers. So what does she do? Like, what's her deal? Chat, what's her deal? The people who like posted this should at least give me.
I need to go to the bath.
She's filthy rich and nothing more. Wait, that's it? She's just white, blonde, and rich? She could afford to live in slave. Of course she's rich. No, the reason why she could afford to live in slave is not because she's rich. The reason why she could afford to live in slave is because American imperialism has created a environment that is only sustainable with third world exploitation, specifically labor as a main import. She is 29 and her dad is 92 and her brothers are in her 60s. Wait, what the f? This lady is 29 years old? Bro, I thought she was like 17, 18. That's why she was like posting these like ridiculous things. Not realizing that like you're going to get super canceled for this or for understandable reasons. She got that drinking child's blood money. Wait, did you grab the... Wait, let me grab the salad. You forgot the salad, brother.
Yesterday, I sat down and filmed a lengthy video going into the details of her immigration process as well as her employment. Before posting that video, I called Elena and shared it with her. She asked that I do not share those details of her life. Her word to me is the most important thing, and I will honor that.
Honestly, calling that lady a slave is a very first world privileged leftist thing to say. You are all exploited in the third world. You are all citizens of the empire. Yes, I 100% agree with that. No, she is in that condition. She probably does not even hate the condition that she's in. That's what I was trying to explain here. Okay? She probably does not even hate the condition that she's in. You want to know why? No, this is... Or wait, no, this is mine, yeah. You want to know why? How eviscerated we have left places like the Philippines, okay? In comparison to other people from wherever she's from, she's probably doing much, much better. That's the luckiest person in the village in that regard.
Nick, live in servant. I get the salad. I actually found, I picked the for the first time. I guessed which word the forks were in, and I was right.
You're great. You know. Oh, almost got it, but I did not get it.
That she and I know the truth of our relationship, that is what matters most, and that hateful people are not interested in understanding. I want to make it clear that I agree with how broken the immigration process is. Separately, I'd like to make it clear that Elena received a competitive wage for her work. Prior to her work with my family, she worked...
Yes, she got to live in the wealth of empire and send money to a home to her family, which is like a huge reason, like a huge way. Part of the biggest reason why I'm a big advocate for, open borders and better immigration policies. She did probably feel lucky and privileged herself, but that doesn't change the actual reality, okay? What did she say?
Immigration process is. Separately, I'd like to make it clear that Elena received a competitive wage for her work. I cannot speak to her sacrifices and decisions, but I will say that every year she continued to choose to work with my family. It was one of our biggest blessings. Elena is the most incredible human with the most incredible soul, and I could not be more proud to consider her one of the 3 pillars that raised me. All of my grandparents passed before I was born, so I cannot speak to that traditional relationship, but in my heart, she is that and then some. My relationship with Elena was normalized to me. She has been in my life since I was 3 weeks old. It is very, very painful to unpack why someone would end up as an undocumented citizen in America, but reducing her life and her story to nothing but pain and sadness is untrue and disrespectful. She has a full life with hobbies and travel.
This is what I mean when I say is the banality of evil. Like, on paper, what she's describing is just like an outcome of just incredibly evil policies that led a person so far away from home to make these tremendous sacrifices. Okay? But the way that you describe it as though you are the victim here in this circumstance is like pretty obvious. Like, it's just so normalized. This level of like evil is so normalized, you know what I mean? Because the status quo is awful. I want to explain precisely why this video and the situation it depicts is so heinous for those that don't get it. First, more details on the situation. This woman is in the USA for 30 years working for his family and was not able to leave according to the video creator. There is one reason for this and one reason only. She did not have a work visa. So this family employed her for 30 years, did not sponsor her as an employee to help her regularize her migration status and let her visa expire. Her having been on an expired visa obviously means that she was in the country illegally and being employed illegally by this family. This means she had no real labor protections and no recourse against them. As if she complained, she could have been investigated and deported. This is a huge part of our agricultural production too. This is why a lot of these facilities, poultry, and pretty much every kind of agricultural output is done by undocumented immigrants who are in that position with no legal way to like regularize their migrant status, because it's much cheaper to do so. It's much there's no protections for them, and you can utilize the INS or the Immigration Customs enforcement to your advantage whenever there is any kind of like labor complaints coming from these workers who you are underpaying anyway. Again, the family did nothing to help her with this. In fact, if anything, her precarious migration status was beneficial for them because it meant they could exploit her and control her more and avoid giving her benefits, the minimum wage, etc. She was legally an unperson. That's true. Yeah. Her migration lawyer part is especially suspect. Having a lawyer who is yours rather than just someone you got advice from once or twice is incredibly expensive. There's no way she was able to pay for it herself. So was this lawyer actually employed by the family then? The implication for that possibility are clear. A lawyer employed by the family told her that she shouldn't leave the country, which obviously is great for them as they keep their house slave, just adding to the already numerous ethical issues with this situation. In 30 years, after so obviously and clearly seeking out an informal migrant, they never helped her regularize her migration status, leaving her in a highly precarious situation where she had little control over anything about her life / no ability to travel. Even despite that, even if we accept this notion that she personally couldn't travel, her employers could have paid for visits from her family, who is noted she hadn't seen in 30 years. They did not. These are people rich enough to have a living maid. Obviously, they could afford it. They clearly do not actually love her or consider her part of the family, as this American girl implies in her TikTok. They did nothing for her aside from the bare minimum. The best years of her life were spent toiling for another family while she was kept away from seeing her own. And why does this situation exist in the first place? Because of the upper class families like this, who concentrated their class power in the past to further colonialism, like the Philippines was literally a United States colony, and who are still the driving force behind imperialism today. The same imperialism that keeps countries like the Philippines poor, that causes people like this to take drastic measures, living abroad for 30 years without ever going home, working for the very class of people who put people like her into that situation. The woman who made this TikTok has absolutely no concept of what her and her family have done to this woman and her family. For her, it's an opportunity to make a fun TikTok for internet clout. It's disgusting. In this, you can absolutely sponsor a domestic worker for a temporary work visa up to 3 years, and then you can sponsor them for a permanent residency. They want to cheap precarious labor they could exploit, so they didn't do this in the beginning. Absolutely true. 100%. She was in the situation of being unable to travel for 30 years because the family did not formally employ her at the start. Because of that, she came to have no formal status, so she could only leave once before being banned from re-entering again. Obviously, that's a great situation for the family, exploiting her to put her into a domestic worker who does everything for them, who can't leave until she retires, who has no legal protections or recourse to abuse. It's so gross, man. Yeah.
30 years. That's a while. That's crazy that she had children and then like it was like, okay, well, I'm not going to see you till like you're an adult. Man. I'm like,
yeah. Like you could have like grandchildren even that you don't know about at that point. Anyway, there's so many people in the US that don't get happy little TikToks about it.
making the TikTok about it is crazy.
Yeah. Like no one would have known if you didn't choose to like do this for clout, by the way. So that's what's wild about this drama.